Hey everyone, how's it going today? Welcome back to another third/fourth stimulus check unemployment benefits extension update. So today I really just want to take a visit to answer one of the golden questions that's all over the news, the media, the comment section right now, which is really about whether or not we can potentially see another fourth stimulus check, or rather unemployment benefits extension, go on after September 2021. Now the fast answer to that question right now is that this current time, we don't know. And it's because at the end of the day, we are talking about something that's happening into the future, and because the future has not actually physically happened yet, there is no definite answer. But with that being said, is that there are certain things that we know about what's happening in the country now to maybe potentially use to speculate to what we think can potentially end up happening, and to try to get as much of an answer that we possibly can. Of course, the big thing again is that there's just no definite answer. Maybe if you guys happen to have any particular information or predictions about anything, whether right now or maybe at the very end of this video, feel free to share them about honestly just really anything at all. I figure today's topic maybe will hopefully be a little bit more relatable if you just happen to be someone that has something to do with unemployment, whether this is because you're currently peacefully on unemployment, so huge congrats there, or you're someone that thankfully just got back onto the unemployment, huge congrats to people in Indiana and a couple people in Maryland, or maybe you just happen to be someone that's currently in the lawsuit trying to fight to bring it back. I figured this is maybe something that's hopefully going to be relatable to a much larger audience. If you are someone that's still waiting for your unemployment, I did make already a couple of videos which I'll also put at the end screen. Most of you guys probably already saw it, but it'll also be at the end screen so you guys can check out about that, about what's been going on with the lawsuits, the cases, and everything there. With that being said, we're gonna get started right away, but as always, real fast, maybe before we begin, the same exact drill, consider smashing the like button because we are hopefully going to talk about something that's a little bit more positive today. Consider subscribing and hitting the bell to join in. Huge thanks if you guys have been here, and as always, feel free to comment any questions, thoughts, or any particular information that you might have about honestly just really anything. So that being said, let's get this video started. So right now at this current time, there are really actually several factors that will determine whether or not we get another extension. And I'll focus them really specifically about three, although there are actually several. I'd say probably the first really big factor that's going to determine if we see another extension is really going to be a lot more dependent about how the jobs report and the unemployment numbers go through. Now at this current time where we currently stand is that they are improving. However, because we are still at the end of the day living through a lot of moments of uncertainty, really anything can change, especially with the Delta variant that you guys might have already heard about, which we're going to talk about right near the very end in a little bit, because that's probably going to be one of the biggest ones. But the big thing is that it really just depends about how the job numbers or the jobs report and the unemployment claims and numbers ends up looking over the next couple of months. There's a reason why we've had so many different lawsuits, so many different states that have been trying to end unemployment, aside from the political reasons, but a huge part of it is because of the numbers. That's why when every single week there and there we always try to share what the unemployment numbers look like, we always try to share what the jobs report looks like. That's the reason why it's actually relatively important, because a lot of these numbers are going to be used in a lot of the decisions to what they actually end up doing, whether this has to do with whether they do more extensions or whether they actually end up sadly ending it, like what they're doing now currently in several states. So hopefully maybe this also shows why it's relatively important. So every single week when we share these numbers, it's not because we're just trying to share numbers on a bunch of screen, and it's not just because we just want to get our unemployment information as much as possible, and why does this matter? That's the reason why it really matters. It's because at the end of the day, every single unemployment number that you see, it pretty much represents a person. It represents someone that's possibly or very likely going to be going through something at this current time. And it actually, if anything, actually underrepresents a lot of this stuff, because there's also a lot of people that are technically in that particular situation, but were never accounted for inside of the numbers. But the idea is at the end of the day, it's a number that represents a group of people and that has a significance in what's going to be happening going forward. Now, the second thing is probably the fastest thing to really just know about is really just about politics, because at this current time there are actually still a lot of political tensions, as there pretty much have been for pretty much most of American history of parties. And so because of that reason, they're actually even having difficulties right now trying to approve the fourth stimulus package, infrastructure, human infrastructure. So basically everything around policies, they're already having a little bit of difficulties trying to go through that. So depending on how they're able to work out their political differences, that is probably going to be something that can maybe or may not impact whether or not we will get another extension after September 2021. And then probably the big thing that I really want to talk about, I think the biggest third thing or factor that can potentially impact is going to be all about the Delta variant, and about how the Delta variant actually ends up playing through. There are already actually a lot of articles that have been popping up all over the news that are starting, even though they're very subtle, they are nonetheless existing right now, talking about whether or not Delta, and specifically the situation with that, should or should not lead them to maybe do another extension. The big idea is that right now the Delta variant is still actually a very subtle, under the radar news. So we don't really know about how that's going to play out. Now, do keep in mind is that there are actually already a lot of states that are starting to kind of bring back, or at the very least talk about what restrictions or what lack of restrictions they may be doing in their particular state going forward because of what's now starting to happen, because the cases with the pandemic, specifically with the Delta variant, they're starting to uptick again. Keep in mind is there was just like a thunderstorm related thing going on outside. But the big thing to notice is that keep in mind is that when the pandemic started, and by pandemic, we're talking about the very beginning of 2020, it was also a very sudden low-key thing. And I think that most of us at that time period, and I've been following this actually since the global case count with the pandemic was probably around like 2000. And that's only because I actually enjoy following international news, especially Asian international news. So that's the only reason why I've been kind of following since before we even saw a single case outside of China, when it was pretty much only in one country. But the big idea is that because we are living through a lot of uncertainty right now, and we already are starting to see certain states try to consider, or maybe even have already made plans for some kind of restriction, not a full lockdown, but certainly just some kind of restriction. But the idea is that because we don't know where things are going to play out, keep in mind is that last year, regardless of your opinion about, politics or anything like that, we were told during a period of time, at that time when Trump had come out and basically just simply put our representatives, regardless of political party, we went through a period of time where our representatives mentioned and told us on the news how when we first went into lockdown, we were going to be back by Easter. I don't know if you guys remember that. Maybe feel free to comment if you guys did, when we were told, we were going to be back by Easter. And then they extended it to May, and then they extended it to June, and then they extended it to the fall or autumn of last year, and then they extended it to the end of the year, and they finally, thankfully, did reopen. But even to this day, there are still a lot of people that are still recovering from a lot of different things that are happening. I'm sure maybe if you have any particular information about what your state is currently going to do when it comes to anything related to masks, restrictions, lockdowns, rules, basically anything related to combating the Delta variant, feel free to share them down below, because a lot of it is very subtle. But the big idea, and it's definitely something that we probably have to explore more in another video, so maybe consider subscribing if you guys are brand new here, or maybe stay tuned for that, because I think this probably will need another individual video just exploring all about how Delta is going to impact everything related to stimulus and unemployment. But the big thing is that depending on how it goes, that is probably going to be the biggest impact to whether or not we can, or maybe even at the end of the day, if it really comes to it, have to more or less see another potential extension that goes on beyond September. Of course, right now it's just a total question mark, but I figured that this is probably the best answer we can give, since it really is probably a very huge question on a lot of people's minds, I think, right now, about where unemployment is going to go, with basically, at least at the very least right now, 6 months to go. But with that being said, if you guys maybe found that insightful, maybe consider smashing the like button, consider subscribing. That's pretty much what I just really wanted to share in today's update. And with that being said, thank you guys so much for watching. Stay safe, stay well, stay strong. Hopefully we're able to all get through this, especially with so much uncertainty that's happening. And with that being said, thank you guys so much for watching. Stay safe, stay well, and I hope to see you guys next time. Thank you guys. It's pouring right now. Thank you guys so much again, and hope to see you guys next time.